Welcome to the Change Experiment. My name is Rye. This is Cylinder, and this is the Change Experiment. And this is our second episode. And I just wanted to say today we're just exploring topics in which we feel like that you guys would be curious to know about us.
So, bro, I reckon today what we need to do is we need to explain who we are. Like
Yeah,
there's listeners out there that have been tuning into what we're doing, the change experiment and all of this. But like now I think we gotta explain us, a bit about us, our background, what got us into this. I know a little about you, but like
yeah.
the listener out there may not know about you. And so, you know, how would you explain your creative journey so far?
So my creative journey so far, it's funny because the other day I was looking at an old journal. I sent you
Yeah.
a photo, I'm pretty sure. There was like a stack of journals this big. It was like seven of them, and they
Mm.
date back to 2021. And I remember just looking at those journals, and I guess my creative journey started only 4 years ago. But it's like me putting myself out there and putting my work out there has
Yep.
been the last maybe 2 years. Me putting it out consistently and keeping it up has been the last 3 months, last 3 to 4 months. And then I
Yeah.
made sure a month too, which is funny because on the video on my Instagram, I referred to how the momentum we're building started off me posting from a video.
Yep.
But to answer your question, basically the way my creative journey started was just because I wanted to be a video editor. I want to be a director as well. I want to make films. That's how my creative journey started.
Like proper movies by films.
That proper movies. I want to make movies. I was
Yeah.
obsessed with Quentin Tarantino, the guy who's done Inglourious Bastards, Pulp
Yep.
Fiction, movies like that, Reservoir
Yeah.
Dogs. I was obsessed with a lot of filmmakers, even like Martin Scorsese, Taxi Driver, Goodfellas. That's the things that made me want to be creative. But then before that, it's like even before that, I used to write. I had a blog. I
Yeah.
built a website in 2020, and I started writing and posting blogs, and I did it pretty consistently for about 3 months, and then I took it down. But it's like this year the bug has bit me again. The bug never left me, but it definitely bit me again, and I'm back on the journey.
Yeah. No, I'm glad
Yeah.
to hear that. In your early in your early phases when you're experimenting with all those ideas, what would you say was the thing that made you wanna put yourself out there? Like it's one thing to think, I want to make movies, I want to write blogs, I want to edit
Mm.
videos. Like what do you remember that first piece that you did? Was it an article? Was it a video edit? Like,
The first piece I've ever done, like put out to public, it would have been one of my articles. It was never the videos.
yeah,
It was one of my articles. I built a whole website on WordPress. I kept it like we always talk about MVPs. I called it
mm,
rygalois.com, my name. And there was
yeah,
no thought in it. I was like, what can I call this? Called it my name. It's funny because the reason I called it my name is because of a book I gifted you called Show Your Work.
hmm,
In that book, Austin Kleon talks about how everyone needs a website. And his advice is when you build the website, just call it your name. And all your projects, creative, all your creative stuff, you just chuck it on the website. Which is funny where it's like I'd say that book kind of influenced me to start creating that book really influenced me to write blogs and start creating videos,
yeah.
show your work. 'Cause I was like, I don't want to not show my work. I want to put my
Hmm.
work out there.
I'm gonna make a kind of big transition, but like from when you started, you mentioned you started off with your full name. your government
Yeah,
name. When
yeah.
did you come up with Go Home Right?
When did I come up with Go Home Rye? I like that. I came up with Go Home Rye when it would have been when I was like a teenager. I heard it in a
Yeah.
Childish Gambino song. Like, there's a part in the song where Childish Gambino goes,
You see you go home right.
Go home, Roger.
See into mirror in my bed, I'm a smart guy.
and it's like a reference to a
Yeah.
90s movie or
Yep.
90s show, Tia and Tamara, that they're in. And I just remember hearing it, and I was thinking, Go Home Roger. It has a G in it, and my actual name it's spelled Ruag. So what I did
Mhm.
was I saw the G in Roger, and I just liked how it looked Go Home Rye aesthetically with
Yeah.
my name. But then I wanted to change it a bit, so I added CH, the traditional Nuer spelling of my name.
Mm.
Yeah.
With where we're at now, like, putting stuff out,
Yeah.
we're experimenting, we're trying to create these changes.
Yeah.
How does it feel like? I know it's early days, but how
Yeah.
does it feel like? You mentioned momentum and things like
Yeah.
that, but like, for example, just someone else who may be fearing experimenting, someone who may be fearing taking that next step, like, explain the benefits of the position you're in.
Honestly, the benefits of the position I'm in is that I'm unknown. And that's what I keep telling people. It's like when you and I, Cylinder, when we post these videos, we know that we appreciate the people who are supporting us and watching our videos, but for the
Hmm.
most part, they're just our friends and family. They don't owe us that, and we're not entitled to that, and we appreciate it. But
Yeah.
the audience that we're trying to build and the audience that we're trying to reach, they don't even know who we are yet. So just that anonymity, that being anonymous is what's so great about the position we're in. We're just unknown. And it's so
Yeah.
powerful being unknown because you can just experiment. You can fail. We can post 3 reels at one time, the same reel, delete two, repost them. We can do so much with our page because no one knows who we are.
Hmm.
So that's from that. I can't speak for you, but that's how I feel about us. But I want to flip it back on you, if that's okay. I want to flip it back on you.
That's what I feel.
So Cylinder, like, what was your initial what was your initial introduction to this creative lifestyle, for lack of a better term? I can't really think of a word. But
Uh,
what was your
in terms of creativity, I
yeah,
can draw it all the way back to like prep.
yeah,
Like, the older I get, the more I realize I love storytelling. I love
yeah,
listening to stories and like documentaries, podcasts, interviews, all of that kind of stuff. Like, I like those kind of stories, like people stories.
mm,
And I find that the older I get, the more I see how I'm in tune with that. But
yeah,
like, that was my first exposure. Like, coming into Australia, we went to a Christian school, and like, they'd read Bible stories, and I'd be listening to these stories, and I'd be thinking, man, these guys are like, I didn't know what superheroes were. I didn't know about Spider-Man or Batman or anything like that. But in primary school, I was like, I was imagining them as like these people that are invincible. And then when
yeah.
I learned what superheroes was, I was like, oh, they're Bible characters. But then
Oh,
like, yeah, like, that was my thinking. But like, yeah, like, that was my first exposure. And then always just being fascinated by art as well. But
yeah,
I think every time I look backwards, it's always been about the storytelling part. And so even now, like, talking to people is something. I'm not the biggest talker, but like, if you bring up an interesting topic, I can talk for days. Like, it's easy to talk to you because like, we can
yeah.
talk about music, we can talk about creativity, and it's just easy, But if you bring up a boring topic, I'm going to sleep.
You're
Like,
asleep.
I'll be go home and go home still in that.
Go to sleep.
Oh,
Go to sleep, Cylinder.
yeah.
That's funny. That's interesting, bro. I like when you said I like can we expand on the idea of storytelling? Because I feel like the interesting part of content creation, making videos, writing blogs, they all come back to storytelling. That's how you captivate an audience is by telling good stories.
Yeah.
What's a story that you've wanted to, obviously not too personal, but what's a story that you've always wanted to like kind of express and tell that maybe is in the works or you does that make sense? Like in your head, like what's something that's like doing around like one day you want to share, you know?
I guess like our journeys. It sounds
Mm,
weird, but like our journeys. Because like for me, when I tune into like a documentary or an interview, I see it as a blueprint. Like here's someone who went from A to Z. And like, well, not Z because Z would be the coffin, but like went from A to past the middle of the alphabet. They got to
yeah,
their success. And
yeah,
so to me, it's like this person, man or woman, made something of their life,
yeah,
but like it's their story that is captivating to me. It's like how they did it, the things that they learned along the way, who they became, the character that you develop,
yeah.
the values and principles. Like I'm trying to think of someone off the top of my head.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you listen this far, don't forget to comment, don't forget to like, don't forget to share it with a friend, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the episode.
But
I mean,
there's
bro,
many.
there's so many.
Yeah, I
I,
mentioned Chris Brickley. I mentioned
yeah,
Chris Brickley. He's a basketball trainer in America, New York City. And
mm,
just even before in the car coming to the studio, I was listening to his interview and he was mentioning like just the early days, like he
mm,
almost went homeless at one part. And then like just being able to overcome things like that, he had a full-time job and he let that go because he wanted to bet on himself, and
yeah,
the people around him, for example, Carmelo Anthony, famous basketball player, he trusted in him. And
mm,
because of his friends trusted him, he also believed in what he was pursuing. So he was working for an NBA team as a
yeah,
director. And it was like he dropped that to pursue what he's now doing. But at the time that he dropped it, he had no idea that he would become who he is now.
yeah,
And so to me, it's like it's the journey, it's like who you become along the way. And
yeah,
so story I'd want to tell is kind of like what we're doing right now, how we're experimenting. This
yeah,
to me is our storytelling, We're
mm.
physically showing someone, hey, look at how we started. We're doing online calls to start
We're,
this. One
exactly.
day
We're
we're going to
documenting our journey because one day we
yeah,
will be in a studio. One day we will have microphones. Not that we don't have microphones, but you know what I mean. Like we'll have the professional gear because we've done this foundational work. We've laid the foundation down for what's to come. And I agree with you in
exactly.
terms of stories. Stories inspire me. One of the things I
Mm,
always do whenever I find a creator, I find like someone that I really gravitate towards.
yeah,
I always look up whoever it is. I'll be like
beginning.
this rapper interview, and I try to find out like how they started, what they did. I'm
Yeah,
obsessed with like the story because the story's so interesting. It's like they were once like us,
yeah,
and it's interesting.
100%.
Exactly,
I
yeah.
think something that just came up again, getting to
Mm.
know one another and for the audience to get to know us. How do you feel as like a black creative in Australia?
Black
Is that
creative
is
Australia.
that popular or like
Do you want to? I have a hot take. I have a bit of a big opinion. I feel like there aren't
yeah,
that many black educational creators. We have the comedians, we have the athletes, we have the models,
musicians?
the musicians, but we don't have any educational creators. People who have like who just want to spread information. We don't have any of that. Or if we do, I'm unaware and I'm not tuned in. And I'll
Hmm.
probably drop it in the comments. I will actually go research this. But for the most part, we don't have. I feel like we have a lack of that. Because maybe there is some, but it's just like they're not on my radar.
Yeah.
How do you feel about black creatives?
Um, on my end, like I don't know too many,
Mm.
like for me, I'm heavily inspired by American stuff. I'm heavily
Mm.
inspired by what's going on in America. But then
Yeah,
when I come back to Australia and I try to see what's going on in our own backyard, sometimes it's kind of like blurry. Similar
yeah,
to you, it's maybe there are people doing what we're doing, but like we're not, when like it's not on our radar, or like we're not tuned in, or like I don't know, like I feel like Australia has big potential
we
in
do.
terms of like the creative space, just media in general. I think America is at the top,
Mm.
and it's like if you see who's at the top, it's possible to be a competitor to them. It's like
Exactly.
Adidas was around long before Nike, but
Or even,
personal opinion, I think Nike is like has
yeah.
surpassed, and it's kind of like just because someone's at the top doesn't mean you can't compete or you can't show up to the arena.
Can I add to some, I'm gonna add something to that. It's
Yeah,
that in saying that, it's what you're trying to say, well, the way I interpret it, excuse me, is there's abundance in this space. There's enough for everyone to have some. There's enough to go around, you know?
exactly. Yeah.
Like just because so and so's a creator doesn't mean you can't be a creator. Just because so and so makes a video, doesn't mean you can't make a video. There's enough. There's I forgot what it was, 500 million new monthly Spotify users or something. I forgot what the statistic was, but it's like it's millions of people are using Spotify every day to listen to
Yeah.
podcasts. What makes you think you can't build an audience when there's millions of people out there? There's enough room for all of us to grow within Australia, within the world. So we need to, as creatives, black creators specifically, we need to really push towards being that first initial, what I feel like educational creators. We're the first of that breed, you know?
Hmm.
That's how I
Yeah,
feel
that's a
about
good
it.
point.
So we have to just make it safe. We're kind of like, I heard this story on a podcast. We're kind of like, there's Native Americans in the USA,
Yeah,
the ones who wear the hat.
yeah,
So like the Native Americans, like we're like the cowboys, and there's always one cowboy that runs out to the front of the field, and he gets shot with
yeah,
all the arrows, and he just makes
yeah,
sure like so that they lose all their arrows, so the Indians use all their arrows on like that one person, you know.
yeah.
Well, the first few cowboys, then the rest of the cowboys come after. We're kind of like that first initial cowboy, like those first initial cowboys who come over the mountain, see what's good, what's happening in the field, and we take all the we get all the we make all the mistakes. We fail, we change, we experiment with everything. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Nah, I get you. I've heard something similar, like
Yeah,
to use a sports reference, like Allen Iverson
yeah,
when he was in the NBA, like around his time, right? The
mm,
NBA had like strict rules, and for example, players before games
mm,
had to wear suits. You couldn't have your hair braided. You couldn't wear baggy clothes. You pretty much couldn't be a gangster.
yeah,
And no one could, you couldn't style yourself pretty much. It's like
mm,
everyone it's like a uniform that you have to wear. And
yeah.
I was watching an Allen Iverson documentary, and he said something along the lines of like, he had to crawl so others could walk. And
Exactly. That's
so
the
I
best.
think
Yeah,
that's what you're trying to say. Like, we're,
we're the first. We're the first of a
yeah, we're
group,
going through the hardships, and like we're crawling so someone else can walk later.
and it's perfect. Like something I always say to you, Dylan, and you say back to me is like we're documenting. We're not creating. Of course,
Hmm.
we're creatives, but we're documenting our journey at the same time. And what takes away from the pressure of, oh, we need to be the best or have the best equipment and stuff is the fact that sometimes we just turn on the camera and we just start recording and we document, you know? And showing like to a kid watching that's crazy. That shows them that they can do it off an iPhone, off their laptop, off anything,
Hmm.
of whatever equipment they have.
Just to add on to that, like like you showed me a few people that you saw had potential and a few people that started something. And something
Mm.
that's kind of sad is like often people can start something, but then they
Losing
don't
momentum.
they don't see a season. They don't see the season over. Like it's kind of like they started, they get a few reps in, and then it just
Mm.
fades away. And like to anyone who's been in that position, I've personally been in that position. I've started
Mm.
many things and I've dropped
Same.
them. I've not seen them through. For anyone who is in that position, who fears going in that position or who may go in that position, it's like know that you are still that same person. You know, the person that had that idea, the person who started that something, you are still that person.
Mm.
Just because you have a moment where it seems like you're going downhill doesn't mean this is where you're going to stay. It's all in the mindset. Like if you can win in here, you can win anywhere. And so when you are down, when you are feeling as if everything's against you, when you
Yeah.
are feeling as if, oh, this thing is so saturated, like this millions of podcasts or millions of YouTube channels, like understand that you still need to start. It's still possible. Like, don't let yourself drift away and don't let yourself fall off from something
Yeah.
that is just in your mind. Because often it's ourselves that hold ourselves back. It's not anything outside of us. It's often us.
Yeah. I agree. And I just want to add to that. The best time to plant a tree was 2 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today. So just because someone planted a tree 2 years ago doesn't mean you can't plant your tree today. That's my piece of advice to anyone who's gonna start. And people who think it's not abundant, it's always abundant. There's always new things happening. Instagram releases new features, Spotify releases new features, YouTube releases new features. It's endless, and it's like it's a long game. Like Nipsey Hussle said, it's the marathon, and that's the truest thing with this stuff. Anything creative is always a marathon, you know? Like you're not gonna get the result today, you might not get it tomorrow. You definitely won't get it a month from now, but 5 years from now, you'll be a totally different person, you'll be in a totally different position, you know?
I just want to say as well, like Brian and I both appreciate the people that are tuning in. We're grateful that you view what we do. We're grateful that you comment. We're grateful that you double tap, you subscribe. Like again, we're just beginning. But the fact that people are tuning in, the fact that people are engaging with it, like we appreciate it, and we just continue to ask, like, if you have a moment, just double tap, leave a comment, like let us know your thoughts. Like we're human just like you. And so if you want to interact, if you want to throw up a message, like go ahead, we'll respond back to you. And like people have actually already reached out and like to them, you know who you are, but like thank you as well.
Mm, agreed. I'm forever grateful. Because this is something that the other day, me and Cylinder got so excited. We were like, this is something that started off in our heads, and we just kind of we've made it reality. We've materialized it, you know? We can see it. Like we have an Instagram page, and it has a logo, it has posts on it. And I was geeking out to Cylinder. I was just going like, it's crazy just seeing 7 posts or people liking it, people interacting. So I'm forever grateful as well, and thank you for the support. Well, that was episode 2 of the Change Experiment. I'm Rye, and that's
I'm
Cylinder.
still in the. Can I speak, bro?
Bloopers, bloopers. That's a
Pardon?
blooper.
Yeah.
That's a blooper.
They're gonna see we didn't rehearse.
Yeah, man.
But now I appreciate everyone who tuned in. And remember, subscribe, like, comment, share, DM your friend and say, hey, the Change Experiment just put out episode number 2.
So we're the Change Experiment, and that's episode 2 for us. See you guys next week.